Welcome to a new era of wrestling podcasts, where the hot takes, fantasy booking, nostalgic trips, and everything that happens in your day-to-day life always comes back to the squared circle. It's the Everything is Pro Wrestling podcast with Mike DeSilva, Josh Flanagan, and Nick Flanagan.
All right, is Everything is Pro Wrestling podcast. Mike D and one half of the Kayfabe Cousins, Flanny, in the building with a very, very special guest today. One of our favorites in the biz right now, Anthony Bowens, one half of the Acclaimed. Anthony, thank you for your time today, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. What's going on?
Well, we're recording on a Wednesday, so you're a very busy man today. Obviously, you know what that means, as we said before we started recording. But Full Gear this weekend, man, just a very huge match. You got a four-way tag team match for the belts. Private Party's in there. The Outrunners, the King of the Black Throne. It is just an incredible four tag teams right there. What is your take on it? How are you preparing for this match at Full Gear this weekend?
Well, I'm not going to publicly give away my strategy so the other three teams can, study and scout me. So I won't give you that information. But
That's
what
fair.
I will say is that we've barely touched Private Party over the last 5 years, so we got to figure them out quick. Obviously, we want those tag titles back, and they're the champions, so they're going to be definitely some tough competition. The Outrunners have really built themselves up since we've last faced them, so they're a bit of an unknown. We've never been in the ring with them more than maybe 30 seconds. And then Kings of the Black Throne, we beat them in All In, so we have a general idea of what to expect with these guys, but they seem pissed, so we got to figure out a way to redirect that energy to some of these other teams. But obviously the goal is coming out on top and becoming two-time AEW tag team champions.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, going forward to become the two-time champs, if you listen to any of the internet wrestling community or hear the writings on the wall, the tea leaves in terms of you and the aforementioned Platinum Max Caster, it seems like there may be some quote-unquote writing on the wall of a potential split between the two of you, the Acclaimed. We did see a little backstage segment with the Hurt Syndicate previously where a business card might have slipped into a pocket or not. So, obviously with this matchup coming up, it's hard enough being a tag team and seeing just one opponent across from you in the ring. How much more difficult is that with now three opponents with some of that potential noise or background noise kind of happening at the same time?
I'm not worried about Caster. I've known him for 5 years. He's been one of my closest confidants since joining AEW, and we've accomplished so much together. He's entitled to think whatever he wants to think. He's entitled to mull any decision put forth in front of him. But I'm confident that he knows that we are at our best when we're together. I'm confident that he knows that we are one of the best tag teams in AEW history. So I'm not too concerned about that. Like I said, I want to make sure we get out as champions, because if we start worrying about each other, then we'll never make it through here, because these guys are good. These guys, everybody in this match wants to win.
Yeah, and that's why you got to be laser focused and preparing to be laser focused. Sometimes you listen to music. You can't just be listening to Max. What are you listening to these days to get yourself hyped for a match?
Oh, I listen to everything, dude. It's a very weird hodgepodge mix of music. Right now, Coheed and Cambria just came out with a new song that is absolutely fire. So I've been having that on my playlist all day.
Awesome. When thinking of music and shifting just a little bit to, I guess, maybe we call it your part-time job, Valley Boys. So I want to talk a little bit. Obviously, you played baseball growing up, Montclair State, Seton Hall, played baseball there. So obviously it was a huge passion of yours and something that was a part of you growing up. How cool is it now to have the opportunity, as an adult, being a professional wrestler, but still having time for the Valley Boys and being able to, in some ways, probably live out a bit of a dream?
Yeah, it's been great. I had the itch to get back into baseball in December, and maybe the goal to start integrating myself into, I guess, the baseball culture and the influencing world, and just to kind of blend both of my passions together, because my first love was wrestling, and then it was baseball, and I went back to wrestling, and then it's all over the place. But I, for some reason, never realized that I can blend the two, and I've successfully been able to do that over the last year. I've a part of Jose Canseco's Home Run Derby. I've done collabs with King of Juco, Eric Sim, who's a big baseball influencer. Plenty of appearances with baseball teams. I sang the seventh inning stretch in San Francisco, which is my favorite baseball team, the Giants. So the crossover has been fantastic. And then I get to play on the weekends and kind of get through the stress of the week. And I don't know, it's just been very, very, very cool to be able to do both. And it makes me happy.
And I'm curious. One, I want to give you a bit of a tip of that cap for that catch you made a couple days ago. I saw the one before that you just missed, and you made sure not to let that happen again. So I'm curious. You mentioned baseball and wrestling being your loves as a kid, and I can absolutely relate to that. Those are my two loves as well. In terms of kind of your gimmick or just your approach to wrestling, is there anything that translates from the baseball diamond to the wrestling ring? Whether that's, obviously I'm trying to think outside of the box, not the physical attributes, but kind of your mentality or your approach. You think of your approach when you're at the plate, two strikes, different sorts of things. How does any of that, if at all, translate over to the squared circle?
Well, before AEW, I was known as wrestling's five-tool player. So I have tools in the baseball field that make me successful, and I have tools in professional wrestling that makes me successful. So that's kind of the first immediate connection I think of. But in terms of a mentality, I don't know. I think a lot of the stuff that I learned in college and trained hard in college, because they ran you into the ground, that work ethic and making sure that you're able to time manage and get up early, get a workout in, eat, go to class, go on the baseball field for 6 hours a day, and then do your homework or whatever, and then repeat or have double sessions. All of that stuff that I learned at Seton Hall and college baseball stuff that applied to here, because I've been able to work my way up the ladder here in AEW. I'm somebody that they lean on in terms of doing stuff like this and representing the company and going to the NHRA, the drag racing event, and presenting championships to the winners of the races, and then hopping on a flight and flying back across the country. Our schedules are ridiculous, but this doesn't faze me because this is stuff I was doing back in college. You still have to. I got off a 9-hour delay yesterday, and then it turned into a red eye. Got off the plane, went to the gym, took an hour nap, drove 3 hours here to Dynamite. I'm going to perform tonight, have to drive back, and then I have to go do a spot for MLB Network, and then I got a pay-per-view match this weekend. It's all the same thing. So baseball really prepared me for the work ethic needed to be a top guy in professional wrestling.
So MLB Network, your former employer.
Yes, my former employer, which is always cool to go back there and be like, yeah, I made it. This is where I used to work.
Well, it doesn't get bigger than that when you're talking baseball. Just a two-part question for your favorite team, San Francisco Giants. We are here. We're in Rhode Island, but we're Red Sox fans.
Okay.
Respectable. Well, listen, Bowens, let me tell you something. This guy grew up in this area, and he's a Yankees fan.
I'm repping the Paul Sox Bowens. You probably know a bit about the AAA, the Pawtucket Red Sox. They moved on. They're out of the way, but that's the hometown team, so that's who I'm repping. But my MLB affiliation is the New York Yankees.
Which is just pathetic.
I'm going to have to agree with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely pathetic.
If it makes you feel any better, Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player of all time. I think we can agree on that.
All right. He redeemed himself.
All right.
That's redemption right there.
Well, it's interesting because we would be recording the shows, and it was around the time that him and our other co-hosts, who also is from here, is also Yankees fans. I'd be the only one rooting against the Yankees, but it was like the worst case scenario for both of us because either the Yankees won or the Dodgers won. Do you hate when the Dodgers win the World Series? Does it affect you as much as it does if like the Yankees were to for us?
It made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah. All right.
And it's hard to say because I have friends that work in the organization who enjoy when I go to Dodgers games and support the team. But just going is enough support I'll give it. I'll never cheer for them. I will never be happy for them. It's against the religion of being a San Francisco Giants fan to cheer for the Dodgers.
Respect.
Yeah. And, similar to the Red Sox, the Giants have had so much success this century, right? Fortunate for both teams in the fan bases to see so many World Series, so many great teams. But it feels like we're heading into an off season. We're always like the bride that gets left at the altar. We're like, we're in talks with all of these off-season acquisitions, and then we never get there. Is this the off-season that we get it done? Either one of us?
I hope so. I mean, we have Buster Posey in charge now, and he's shaking up the organization a bit. So we'll see what that strategy looks like, because I think a change is definitely needed there. And, he's been on the field. He's a ball player. So I think he knows what it takes. He knows what the expectations are to build a championship team, considering he's been on 3 of them. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, and I'm hoping for the best. No matter what, I always support them. So we'll see.
And if you can drop a scissor me daddy ass on MLB Network, that make sure we clip that. We'll share that for you.
I'll try. I've always get a little bit concerned with network television. They don't understand the scissor me stuff, but I gotta promote the merch.
Awesome. And
Fire merch.
that was a perfect segue in Mike's account. So you mentioned, being a wrestling fan growing up. So I imagine similar to us, you were probably a fan of the New Age Outlaws. So how cool is it to be able to have the air of one badass Billy Gunn and be able to really understand the crux of the business from his lens, behind the scenes, what he's experienced, obviously a wealth of knowledge. How beneficial has that been to both you and Max Caster in your run?
Hugely beneficial. I always say Billy's been like the guiding light or the beacon of light for the Acclaimed, because he's always been there as a resource for us, always has an infinite amount of wrestling knowledge. And I think one of my favorite things I always say about working with him is he gives you that leeway of having a conversation, of bouncing ideas back and forth and allowing you to try things. Because some folks will be like, this is the way it is, and if you don't listen to me, you're an idiot, or you don't listen to veterans, which is not true. Billy does a very good job of like, hey, playing devil's advocate, what if we did this? And he goes, that might be a good idea. Let's try it. But I think it's going to work this way. And he's right. He's right most of the time. But he does allow you to have that conversation. And that's how I learn. If I just yes people to death, I don't really learn anything. I like to present different options. Like, what if things go this way? What if things go that way? How do we handle that? What's the psychology behind that? And usually he's right on point.
Yeah, and that probably stems from also your athlete mentality, right? You have to be able to be coached and be able to take criticism, and I'm sure that that's translated from your college baseball career as well.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of criticism in baseball. We got yelled at a lot. So actually, funny enough, I used to be scared of Billy when I had my tryout down at the Performance Center back in 2015. I was doing a drill slightly incorrectly. And I opened it's like a drill where you lay on your back and you get up and you square off with your opponent. And I went back down on my back and I looked up and I saw a very angry tomato red man looking at me from up above. And that sight haunted me for years. I was scared to say hello to him when I first got to AEW. So now it's kind of funny that he went to giving me nightmares to being my dad.
Yeah, your dad and Trio's champ.
And champions with him, yeah.
Which is just an insane thing to say. Well, listen, you're a busy man. It's Wednesday. You got a pay-per-view match, a massive tag team championship match. We want to see them back on the Acclaim this weekend. But I do want to say, it's incredible to kind of see the growth of when the Acclaimed first came into AEW to where you guys are now, one of the most over tag teams really in all of professional wrestling. How much of that, and we'll wrap with this, do you credit to the freedom that you're kind of allowed to have at AEW? We've talked to Orange Cassidy recently. We talked to Willow Nightingale recently, and they both credited All Elite Wrestling of allowing them the creative freedom to kind of take something as what may be seemed silly, like Scissor Me Daddy Ass or Daddy Ass in general, and running with it and look at what it's become. How much do you credit AEW for that?
I mean, a lot. It's a very sink or swim environment. They give you the opportunity to go out there and experiment and try things. And I think that's fun because that's all the Acclaimed was. It was two guys who have never tagged before, two singles dudes that came off the independents. Here's the challenge of, you are a rapper and you are his hype man, make it work. And we had the leeway to go out there every single week and try things and see what stuck and see what failed. And I think we're a good example of anybody trying to break through the glass ceiling of, how to continually push yourselves physically, mentally, creatively, to try and connect with the audience. And I'm very, very proud of what Max and I have accomplished and what we will continue to accomplish together. And we'll continue to see that growth this Saturday at Full Gear when we beat the absolute shit out of the Outrunners, Private Party, and Kings of Black Throne to become your two-time AEW Tag Team Champions. Why? Because everyone loves the Acclaim.
Shall we, Mike? Shall we?
Scissor me, daddy ass. Bang. Oh man, that felt good. That felt right. I felt it virtually.
Scissoring feels incredible.
Oh, it's the best. Real quick, what is your record for most scissoring in a day? Because I mean that's gotta be high.
I don't particularly know. I've done a lot of scissoring in my day, but probably the biggest scissor party on earth at Wembley when you got 80,000 people scissoring each other, which was one of the craziest sights I've ever seen in my life.
one of the greatest sights I've ever seen.
I also heard that the English invented scissoring, so that actually makes more sense. Yeah.
How much research you doing on scissoring, bro?
You know, I went down the rabbit hole for our guy here. What can I say?
I don't judge, my dude. I don't judge.
Fair. AEW Full Gear. It goes down this Saturday, 8 p.m. Available on pay-per-view. It's jam-packed. I mean, you name it. You think about who's going to be there, and they will. But we are looking forward to this 4-way tag team championship match. The Acclaimed looking to get the gold back, baby. Actually, can we make them the pink straps again? Because that's, you know, we need those back.
Please.
We'll do a lot of crazy things. Don't worry.
Hell to the yeah. Anthony Bowens, thank you so much for your time, brother. Enjoy this week, and good luck to you on Saturday.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you for having me.